So a holy man reached the outskirts of a village and laid down under a tree to go to bed. And just then a villager came running up to him saying, the stone, give me the precious stone." And the holy man looked at him and said, "What stone?" "Last night, God told me in a dream that if I went to the outskirts of the village at dusk, a holy man would give me a stone that would make me rich forever." The holy man rummaged through his sack and he pulled out a stone. He said, "He probably meant this one. I found it in the forest earlier today. Here, it's yours." And the holy man looked at that stone and his eyes got wide, his heart leapt. It was the largest diamond in the world. It was the size of a person's head. So he took that stone home. And he laid down to rest, but he couldn't sleep. He was tossing and turning all night. And in the morning, he went back to the outskirts of the village to the holy man, and he said, "Give me the wealth that makes it possible for you to give away this stone." Today's story is a similar one about somebody who has discovered the secret that many of us, all of us probably, have yet to discover as we continue this series on sharing generously. Well, according to Marc, Jesus was teaching here at the temple, and the temple was this magnificent, massive structure. It was 150 feet long, 75 feet wide, 150 feet tall, about 20 stories. Can you imagine? And it was the spiritual center for the people, the Jewish people. A place where they would study the Torah together, a place where they would worship God together. And it was also the community center. It was a place they would go to buy and sell, to see and be seen, to meet and be met. And we are told that Jesus had been teaching there all day, and we can surmise from some of Jesus' other experiences, he was probably a little bit frustrated. He'd been spending time with a lot of people, but particularly the religious authorities, and he had his issues with them. He found them to be rather ignorant and arrogant. He was probably a little bit tired. Maybe similar to the day when he fed the 5,000 and he was exhausted and he just needed a place to rest. And we are told by Marc that he finds this space across from the temple. He sits down and he observes what's going on. Now, biblical scholars will tell you that outside the temple, there were these multiple offering boxes made of metal, like large suitcases with slits on the top of them. And each suitcase represented a different ministry of the temple. And so people would come, and they would drop their coins in these metal boxes. So the wealthier you were, the more coins you had, the louder the clang that the sound made in those boxes. And one imagines that Jesus heard a lot of noise that day, a lot of clanging. But it wasn't those loud noises that grabbed him and touched him. It was two tiny clinks that he noticed, and they impressed him. Two small coins worth nothing, dropped by a poor widow into these metal containers. He was so impressed. He called a small group meeting. He said, "Come, I want you to see what I see. See all those people, they have so much. They live in abundance. But this woman, she's got nothing. She lives in poverty, and yet she has given out of the abundance of her heart everything that she has. Do you see her? Do you really see her?" In this moment, Jesus takes this poor widow and he elevates her alongside the first feisty lady, Tabitha, who made garments and tunics and gave them away to the needy. Alongside Barnabas, who sold his field, gave all the money to the early church, the early apostles. Alongside Zacchaeus, who gave away half his possessions and repaid the people that he had cheated 4 times what he had cheated them out of. Alongside the Good Samaritan, who crosses social and cultural boundaries to minister to a stranger who had been fallen by the side of the road, alongside the church of Macedonia, as Mike shared today, who despite their poverty and their affliction, willingly gave beyond their means to support God's work. This year, we're doing a deep dive into our 4 core values: living contemplatively, loving inclusively, sharing generously, acting justly. Session adopted these nearly 2 years ago, and they are guiding us, guiding our actions, guiding and shaping our behavior, guiding our decision-making and our discernment processes. Last month in September, we reflected through sermons, through music, through worship, through small groups, loving inclusively. And this month, we're looking at sharing generously. And here's the core value statement that our session adopted. We invest our time, talent, and treasure in our community, knowing that together we can do more with God's help than we can by ourselves. We share and speak openly about our successes and failures, hopes and fears, dreams and doubts, trusting that our real stories connect us to God and connect us to each other. I love this statement. It reminds us that it's more than just about money. Money is and will always be important, but it's not everything. We are reminded in this statement that our time and our talent, as Rob shared in his devotional this week, are as important, if not more. And at Westside, we also lift up the importance of sharing our life experiences together. And not just the ones that are all buttoned up and cleaned up, all of our life experiences. The times in life when things went well, and the times when they didn't go as planned, the times when they didn't go well. Those times when we lost a job, or we lost our home, or we lost our faith, or we lost, like this poor widow, our spouse. Or maybe the time we walked into a 12-step meeting or a counseling room or a courtroom for the first time. Or maybe when we received a diagnosis of Alzheimer's or cancer or depression. Time when we experienced maybe a broken hip or a broken heart. Today we celebrate the 70th anniversary of our choir program, and there is much to celebrate. We have been blessed with great leadership, Jack and Joanne and Debbie, and we've had pastors like Mike who have supported this ministry and nurtured it and recognized its value and importance in our community. And we give thanks for the countless leaders who've sacrificed their time and talent. Many professionals have been drawn to this ministry and give without pay to this ministry, and we thank them. And we thank all the people who've ever sung in the choir, some of whom have returned for today. We give thanks for the wonderful music that has been offered Sola Dei to the glory of God. We give thanks to the people who've helped us draw near to God through their gift of song and music. And we give thanks for the communities and the choirs and the churches that have been blessed by people Westside has sent out into the nation and into the world. But I wonder if Jesus were sitting here with us today, in this sanctuary, reflecting on 70 years, listening to this beautiful music sung by these beautiful people in their beautiful robes, singing from their heart. I wonder if Jesus called us over into a small group and asked us to see what he saw. What do you think would impress him the most? At Westside, we are striving not simply to be a church with small groups, but a church of small groups. And the Chancel Choir is the longest standing and most impactful and successful small group in our church's history. A place where people haven't just invested their time and talent into the mission and ministry of Jesus, but a place where lives have been intertwined forever in beautiful ways as people shared their real stories with each other over time, successes and failures, hopes and fears, dreams and doubts. For it is our real stories that connect us to God and to one another. There's something that happens that can only happen when we get real. When we get real. People are discovering that more and more, not just in the choir, but in all the small group ministries, men's councils, circles of trust, group spiritual directions, Sundays with Jim and Mark, Tuesdays with me, Wednesdays with Dave, on and on. 43 guys going to Warwick next weekend. They're going to get real with each other. They're going to take the masks off. Leave the BS to the side. Get real with each other about what's really going on. And they will connect in a deeper way with God and with each other. Which brings us back to Jesus and this intimate conversation he has in his small group. What was it about this woman that so impressed Jesus? Was it the fact perhaps that she was not just talking about God or singing about God? Was it that she knew God in the depth of her heart? Was it the fact that she didn't just preach about generosity and understand generosity, but she actually practiced it at great cost? Was it the fact that this poor widow, more than all the robed authorities that Jesus had interacted with, she was mature, the rest of them, nah? Was it the fact that all these people lived in abundance and they were poor? But this poor woman was rich.